I'm not going to be up here and tell you it's great. It sucks. It sucked then. It sucks more now. And the irony is, I'm better. I'm like an expert, and it still fucking sucks, right? Raising money sucks. It's gotten harder with regulations. Employing people is harder. Everyone wants more, 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 and they think they're the best in the world, and they graduated with like a middle-of-the-class average in theirs, but they blame the world for their problems. I mean, the reality is, it's gotten harder, I've gotten better, and in fact, you know, the whole thing has just gone lower than it was when I started. And so the thing that angers me and what wakes me up in the morning and motivates me to do what I do is said, fuck that, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to make it better, not harder. I'm going to make it more fun, easier, more financially rewarding to start a company, because it's really, I believe right now, at a nadir, not at an apex. So that anger motivates me to do inhuman amounts of stupid shit. I'm on a plane like retarded amounts. I feel like that George Clooney movie where like, oh, you know, it's like, I can maximize time, like follow the Asian guy on the line for anyone who saw it because they're efficient. Like I have all these little bizarro tactics that, God forbid, I never wanted to know. So you want to get yourself into the zone. Once you have identified this passion, and maybe you have an idea, you want to get into the zone, you want to start talking to people. Don't go into stealth mode. So one of the first pieces of advice, one of the best pieces of advice I can give here, is identify a board of friends. These are people who will be honest with you through thick or thin. And if it's a stupid idea, they won't be afraid to say, hey, Joe or Sally, that's dumb. You should abandon it. Now, you might have others that say it's good, but you need to find this balance between, you know, taking their feedback and ignoring their feedback. And let me talk about that for a second. But the most important thing is that this board of friends commits to always being honest with you, at least about what they think, regardless of the circumstances. There's no politics, no bullshit. So I look at the early stages of an idea like paper mache, right? And so you're just forming it together. And it's real easy to turn that cow into an octopus, right? It's like, oh, and suddenly it's an octopus. Very easy. Later on, it's a fucking cow. It ain't going to become no octopus. So it starts to harden. So in the early days, taking that feedback is critical, because once it's already kind of hardening as a cow, you can't change it. You have staff, you have investors. A lot of people refer to this as optionality. As you move along the course of developing your business, your optionality decreases. The ability to change your business decreases. So feedback and speaking to people early on is very important. One other point on that. So I like to call all the ideas that I come up with in the beginning when I'm driving on passion to build something, projects. Anyone want to take a guess why I call it a project? Some people know, so don't say it. You can yell.
No stigma of shutting it down.
Damn right. Who said that? If I had money, I'd give you some. You get invisible money. Get used to it, because that's all you're going to have for a long time. How many people here are a founder? Sweet. You all have invisible money. You can give me some invisible money later. So I know that you covered a little bit market, and a lot of people are like, I'm going after this huge market. It's like $300 million. I'm like, I don't know, is that huge in sub-Saharan Africa in some village? Because it ain't huge in America and most of Europe and frankly most of the developed world. I mean, $10 billion market, which is like the market called music, is fucking small. And why is that the case? Because usually there's more than one company that's going after it. So when you start adding up hundreds or even thousands of companies and dividing it by a number, that means the maximum size might be $10 or $15 million per company per year in revenue. And quite frankly, that's not a lot of money. That's a kind of a small business, honestly. The way I look at it is a $10 million business is either the end goal of a lifestyle business or a stepping stone to a big business. And let's put things in perspective. If you have a $3 million a year business, right? you probably have like 5, maybe 10 employees max. And if you have 10 employees, you're probably not that profitable, because my guess is you have some expenses. So, you'll get bored of that. You have to think as an entrepreneur where you want to be in 5 or 10 years. If you're running a business that you've built over 5 years and it's pulling down $3 million a year and you got 5 employees and there's no upside, I guarantee you that unless it's a bar on the coast of like some island in the Caribbean, you're going to get bored of it, right? And even then you might get bored of it or become an alcoholic. So it's really, really important that you understand your market, not just because you want it to be big, but you want it to be something that your passion that caused you to start this business in the first place, that you can grow into. So now that you have this market, you have this idea, you have the passion, you've done some research, you're born into the world, and you want it to be like, rolling a grenade into the middle of the world. It'll more likely be a tree falling in the forest that no one heard. But we'll talk a little about that. So I heard, yeah, this bothers me beyond anything. Like misspellings. Thank you, Aaron. If you misspell your name, you're an idiot. Okay? Clearly you can't spell, so that's problem number 1. And problem number 2, you really don't give a shit about marketing. So there are different kinds of names that you can have, and I've outlined them here. And basically, the name is all you have on day 1. So this is your, you have an idea, you have this passion, you've done some work on it, now you're coming out and it's like, my name is like someone actually had a name. When you see it, and I guarantee you no one here can spell it, because actually it would come up as hard in a password encryption field. Like, that's retarded, all right? So the point I'm trying to bring up, first on spelling, second, and then a lot of people get all funky with the .it and whatever. No. Come up with a name that you can say and phonetically spell, and then there are different categories like functional, invented, experiential, and evocative. Now the problem with functional names is that actually it's very likely that your business will change, and it will change multiple times, and then later on it will subtly change, right? Like Mint is going through a transformation, adding personal finance goals, and if it was like track your money, personal finance goals might not .com, personal finance goals might not fit into that, or it's possible as you evolve that your name might actually be outmoded by the business you do. So functional names like Bet Online or baseballbat.com, they kind of limit you. So FAX, right? Not FACTS, which is a problem with spelling, by the way. So generally, and invented names have no meaning, right? So you've got to build all the brand up there. So unless you have a lot of money, I would avoid them. So generally speaking, I would go after experiential names and evocative names. And these are names that sort of call to the essence of what you're trying to do when you say them. So I use stupid examples that everyone knows, like Virgin. Just kidding. Virgin, there's a typo. I thought I fixed it, but I guess I didn't. And Navigator or Explorer or all the other browsers all basically copy one another in that experiential front. But I go back, at least from my perspective, naming is one of my big pet peeves. And then when you're getting started, everything that you do is essentially, the whole company is you, and the brand is you. And the best example of this that I can use is Google in the early days, who continued to have the, is there a little feedback on the mic, by the way? Everyone hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, maybe I just hear it. Why the fuck is there a I'm feeling lucky button on the page of Google? It's the brand. Like, why do Larry and Sergey get on stage in rollerblades? I mean, they are kind of quirky, funny people. And they put the I'm feeling lucky, that button is probably worth $20 billion, right? I mean, there's no other ads on that page. It's, the real, per pixel, it's probably $1 billion each, something like that. And it probably has been clicked like, you know, a measurable amount of times, like 100 million times, you know, and which is about the amount of times that people go to Google every day. So it's only there to convey a brand. And it's there because early on they had this goofy kind of, we're a lovable company, I'm feeling lucky, ha ha ha, brand. And so the little things that you do, the way that your personality translates out into the world early on is key to your success. So a lot of people go into these exercises and are like, my brand should be this, my brand should be that. That's just wrong. Your brand is you, your company brand is you. The real exercise is, who am I, why am I doing this, what motivates me, and then how do I convey that out to the world most effectively through stupid things like the I'm feeling lucky button and every other decision that you make, large and small. So there's a lot of talk about, you know, what model should I be in and how does that work out, and at least I'm going to talk a little bit from the consumer side. Generally speaking, you see this well, I'm pointing at my screen, you see this 4-box model, and on one side you have intent and scale. And generally speaking, in any sort of business to business, or even business to consumer, or business to consumer, or consumer internet play, you want to have high intent and high scale. And what that means is, by intent, you know why the person is interacting with your property so that you can monetize that. And obviously, scale is a large number of them. Now, you can have a very successful business with super high intent and low scale. For example, the Funded, you know, is technically a lifestyle business, but on a per user basis, we make an enormous amount of money because every single person that comes to the site is seeking a CEO seeking financing. That's it. So I know what their intent is, I just don't have a large scale, and thus it's a lifestyle business. So you can move your way up the chain, you know, and this is an important way, especially, how many people here are doing a consumer internet or business to consumer company? Okay, that's almost everyone. We'll come back to what the others are, all 5 of you are doing that's not that. And then obviously there's this concept of symmetric versus asymmetric models. So a symmetric model is where, hey, I'm going to sell you a widget for $1. The transaction is symmetrical. In asymmetric models, it's like, hey, you're looking at my site, you have intent, an advertiser wants to reach you. So it's asymmetric models. The large models today in the world, the ones that are building the Facebooks and Googles, tend to have the nirvana, so high intent and high usership with asymmetric models, right? So just an FYI. Now, this one is great. Everyone know Like.com? It just got bought by Google. So the founder of Like, Manjal, actually gave this chart at the top. And when he first started the predecessor company, which called RIA, there was something like an insanely large number of steps before they made $1. You had, you know, they had to get a user, the user had to tag, maybe upload content, tag it, then someone else had to look at it, make a decision to buy, and by the time a transaction actually happened, there might have been 7 or 8 steps that needed to occur. So one of the key things when you're coming up with a revenue model is, how do you just minimize the steps to revenue? Consumer sees what they like and they buy it. 2 steps, right? Or consumer searches and purchases. Like, this is really, really important, especially if you're doing a symmetric model. You want to make the steps to revenue as small as humanly possible, and then it becomes easier to track, easier to optimize, easier to A/B test against, and everything else. Another interesting concept when it comes to creating a business is creating a flywheel of value, which is represented in the bottom chart. And the idea is, you build something good, you would get a bunch of people to get invested in the success of that thing that you've built. They then in turn, you know, help you do customer acquisition. You then fix it up, continue to iterate, and the cycle keeps renewing. And, you know, a great example of this is, you know, the iPhone and its App Store. They created this device, essentially a platform for apps. The developers started, in some limited cases, very few and far between, making money, and that created this virtuous cycle where it recruited more people. Now the problem is, of course, now Apple's teetered out and is not able to sustain the number of developers that flywheel brought on, and this is a serious problem for them. But at least it's better where Android is. And the idea, though, for you is in your business, is there a group of stakeholders that you can invest in your success so that they care nothing more than to see you succeed? And Twitter's done a great job with this, but they've also fucked it up with getting getting developers to write to the APIs and platforms. Then they're like, just take it away. But anyway, these are, don't do that. That's wrong. That kills the flywheel awfully quick. But that flywheel of value is really the formula of success with some of the greatest companies in Silicon Valley history. So how many people here have co-founders? Well, that's a strange way of raising your hand. So either, how many people here are co-founders who are in the room? Clearly not many, right? As I figured, because they're like pattern matching. Like one dude would raise his hand, someone else would raise it over there. I'm like, well, either half of you are raising your hand or your other half is in here. My quick advice on this is the following. Co-founder, very, 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 very rarely have co-founder relationships in the history of humankind worked out favorably. And that's not that shouldn't discourage you. What it means is that it's twice the amount of effort than you think in your outside estimation to find and vet the right co-founder. And you should take that job and that responsibility, if you are a co-founder or looking for a co-founder, very seriously. So you should spend time with them, spend time with their family, test them, try to scare the shit out of them, talk to them about, let them know everything dark about you and try and scare them away from the company. If you literally try your best to scare this person away and they still want to co-found with you, they're probably the right person to do it. Otherwise, I would be hesitant, because let me tell you something. You go to dark places when you are running a company. I mean, there's this damages line where the actor wants to play Ted Danson. And he's like, show me how dark you went. Like, whatever, censor, pretty dark. And the guy's like, really? Let me tell you something. I've never gotten Ted Danson dark, but it gets pretty dark. You're like, people stealing stuff from you, you've got to make decisions, and if this person, your co-founder, isn't on the same page and same wavelength as you, you're going to run into a lot of problems down the line. So that the harder you can vet them early on will save you a lot of headache, equity, and legal costs later on. Just reiterate, so this is a little, I didn't delete the top one, a little Aaron Patcher point, but what I like, you see that chart with the financing and the IPO? There's actually a kind of interesting, subtle thing that most founders don't realize. Most founders think that the second they raise money or they go public, it becomes easier to do things. And I'm going to argue that it's actually easier right before you raise money or you go public, because at that point you have the maximum perceived value in the world, right? Oh, we're about to raise $1 million and everything's going great. The second you raise $1 million or an event happens, you're bogged down, you got a lot of shit, like you're suddenly spending money, you're distracted, you actually lose some efficiency, and that sort of perception of like the world is my oyster is metered by the reality that it's an oyster at the bottom of the East River, which is a pretty dark and cesspool-y place. So the point is that, and then a lot of people use an excuse saying, oh, I can't hire anyone good because we haven't raised our Series A. I'll tell you right now that most of your best hiring and most of your best moves can be made at this plateau of expectations right before that event happens rather than right after. And in fact, the further out you go after, the darker it goes, the less compelling your story is, etc., until you start reaching another milestone that's in the foreseeable future. I'll leave a couple more slides, and then we're going to do the hot seat because I like keeping the time. So this is another widely overlooked thing for most founders. You're busting your ass, and you're like, some dude recommends some accountant, and he comes in, and he's like, hey, whoa, and he's like, Vinny. And you're like, Vinny seems competent in a mafioso kind of way. That's cool, whatever, I'm going to hire Vinny. The problem is, everyone that represents you, all the people that surround you and your friends form the average of 5, let's call that. And you are the average of the 5 people around you, the 5 vendors around you, the 5 friends around you, the 5 employees around you. So these circles, so if you have this cheesy Vinny accountant and he's kind of goofing around and makes some mistakes here and there, that's a perception of your business in the world. And it may come out when you deliver an investor report and there's some stupid error in it, and you can trace it back to that decision early on to hire Vinny. So you really have to be as diligent hiring your lawyer, hiring your accountant, hiring your partner, hiring your co-founder, even your angels. Everyone has to be at the same level if you really want to be excellent. If you're okay with mediocrity, then skimp. But if you want to dominate and win, then don't compromise. And don't compromise in anything that you do. And the second you realize you've made a compromise, if it's an accident, you fix it. I had other images in here, but so when you get started, it's a street fight. There's really no other way to describe it. There's some elation moments, much like a street fight, but for the most part, you're getting pummeled in the face. And I generally, there's really no other way to say it, but fake it till you make it. That really has to be the motto. I mean, no one here likely has the accurate experience to do what they're doing. I mean, maybe Aaron, but he wants to do other things he may not have any experience in. I don't know if you have experience to run into it, but we'll let you argue that later on. But the reality is you fake it, and then you build that experience base, and then you're good at it. And I'll give you, the build it backwards is a way. So one of the best lines I've ever heard is from a friend of mine who built a $5 billion public company from nothing. He was like a scrappy, he studied dance in college. I mean, what the fuck? And he runs this $5 billion public company. I'm like, yeah, your dance degree really helped a lot there. But what he said to me was like, look, I envision myself running an awesome company in the space, right? I just pictured it in my mind. I knew exactly what it looked like, right? I saw myself, I saw what the office looked like, I saw how I interacted with people, the type of people in my company, and then I sort of projected that back to that. And what type of person was I when I ran that business, right? And then I made myself into that person today, figured out what the milestones to that destination were, and as I crossed them, I celebrated them publicly. And I think it's the best piece of advice for an entrepreneur that you can give. If you don't know, at least in your mind, where you want to end up, I promise you, you will not get there, right? And you won't know what milestones to celebrate. You won't know the path to get there. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to think you're going to go this way and you're going to end up going that way. And you might even think you're getting here and you're going to end up going there. But you have to have that idea. You have to have that vision of you being awesome and get to that destination and project that back to where you are today. And maybe you don't have a secretary and even an office or anything like that, but you've got to convey the awesomeness of where you want to be in your actions today, or mark my words, you'll never get there. So a couple last points. This one's pretty easy. Basically, pretty much every decision you make early on is either upward and to the right, mediocrity, or death. It's like Do I get a cleaning service? Upward into the right, mediocrity and death. I mean, it's like literally sometimes as small as things like that. So you should sweat the small stuff. And I'm serious about not compromising, but that doesn't mean that you need to, a cleaning service or not cleaning service, you sweat the impact on the cash flow, not like other issues. But truly, every decision when you're at that early stage is meaningful. And this is actually the Gartner hype curve. What's interesting is it applies to markets and it applies to companies. So sort of like that previous chart with the financing and IPO, like in a company, you're always going through these cycles where at 1 minute, you're like, we rock! We just won this big deal! And then they're like, here are the requirements. It's like, oh Jesus, this really sucks! And then you're like, we survived the deal! And then it sort of makes money. So you gotta know your dips, you gotta name them, you gotta have some foresight to see that they're coming, and you gotta get the team aware. Because you don't want to get hit with a big surprise. A lot of CEOs and a lot of founders are the gung-ho, no, it's going to be great, it's going to be great. Listen, it's not going to be great. And in fact, the more honest you are with yourself and your team, the better prepared you will be to succeed. So identify the coming problems, name them, make your team aware of them, and try and overcome. So OPM, I can talk a lot about that. I mean, it feels great to spend, payback is a bitch. You guys are, the weird thing is, I can tell you all this stuff about financing, and I promise you the following statement will be true. In 3 months from now, everything I said will be irrelevant. There is the fastest pace of change in private company finance in the history of entrepreneurship, period. You are seeing massive amounts of decline in venture investing due to a massive amount of investment into the class. You're seeing a scaling up of a bubble in angel investing. It's certainly frothy and likely a bubble. You're seeing shifts in terms and structures and deal structures. So in some ways, it's a great way to go out, or it's a great time to go out and raise money, but anything you do today will not continue and persist in even 3 months from now. I promise that the world will be a radically different place. So I caution you that if you're, how many people here need to raise money? All right, I'm going to tear up some founders. I know a lot about this subject. Why don't we save that for Q&A? And on that note, maybe we should jump into some. Who wants to volunteer?
We have some names. We got a Sam. Volunteer is here. Sam Eder.
Yeah, right here.
Back.
On the back.
Just come on stage if you're Sam.
All right.
Who wants? But any volunteers? We have a volunteer. All right, come on up.
Stage first. Or one by one.
Doesn't matter. They can line up. If you want to do it, line up over there. Come on up. If the three of you come on up. Do you need a mic? How much time? That's a good question. How much time?
As short as possible.
We'll do 1 minute. So you have 1 minute to talk, and I'll time you. You're not going to fuck up, right? A lot of people out there. You could bore the shit out of them. That would be really bad. You ready? Okay, go.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Balfour, CEO and founder of LifeSeller. I have a technical background. We've worked on very large, complex projects. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, done projects for Visa, the White House, and the Executive Office of the President. I'm very passionate about this space. So what problem is LifeSeller solving? Essentially, if a home burns down, there's a fire, a flood, documents, information is lost. This happened to a very good friend of mine a few years ago. I said there must be a way to solve this problem. So essentially, LifeSeller is an intelligent way to store all of your documents and information and allow you to collaborate with not only trusted professionals, but your family and friends as well. We have a current alpha product we're launching. We're going to market based on vertical. We're starting out with the healthcare vertical and insurance to allow you to store all your valuable documents. Go-to-market strategy, essentially, we're going to be starting out with a base hit with individual consumers to build a foundation, and we expect that we can scale very quickly to hit enterprises, associations, and small, medium businesses.
All right, so I would say, so he's in the Founder Institute, so he's been trained, and even so, that was pretty shitty. Maybe I do. So here's what the problem is. I don't give a shit what you did before. Like, first thing I care about is the business, right? So what is your business? Hi, I'm LifeSeller. When I was young, I found some apples, and they were tasty, and then I went to the farm, and I sold them, and I made some profit, and I learned that profit was good. Now back to LifeSeller, which I'm really passionate about. What the fuck? What the fuck? Like, I'm like, hey, that's cool. You were young and liked apples, and now you're doing LifeSeller to save people from fire. It's like, when you pitch, you tell a story, okay? So if you have a 1-minute pitch, you tell at most 1.5 stories. I heard about 10 stories in that thing. It's like, here's my younger years, here's my company, here's my friend with a fire, here's how I'm going to market, here's something about insurance, I was just like, like you want everyone in, like you want to say your name, your name maybe twice, your company name 3 or 4 times, and you make a story out of it. So, hi, my name's Steven, and I'm the founder of LifeSeller. It turns out that about 100,000 Americans a month lose invaluable documents due to storm damage, fire damage, or other natural disasters, and there's just no way to recover them. There's no records in the courthouse, there's no backup at the insurance agency, and the hospital might not even have their birth records. These critical documents are required for title to your house and represent, and other things like that, and represent in aggregate, monthly, billions of dollars of value. At LifeSeller, our goal is to keep those documents safe so that no matter what happens, your friends, your family, and other professionals can access them at the point of need. Done. That's one story. All right, thank you. Oh yeah, timer. I like my complicated one. But it crashes. Are you ready for a crash? Pause, crash, restart. Ghetto is excellent. All right, you ready?
Awesome. Hi, I'm Banu. I'm starting a project called Meetly. Turns out millions of people like us go to events every day, hoping to come back with contacts that actually have value. We pay, we park, we fly. Technology doesn't help us there, and the handshakes, unfortunately, don't scale. The organizers don't really have too much tech for majority of the meetups to provide you a way to discover, connect, and engage with people of interest, not interesting people. And you get stuck with a guy 45 minutes, you try and get rid of him by the time you know the meetup's over. That's the general area that interests me, is saving people a lot of time and money, networking more efficiently through technology, mobile, social, proximity, social graphs. All these technologies didn't exist a few years ago. If you can bring them together to professional networking events, you can make the ROI of social networking at real events much higher than it exists today.
Okay. Well, we're not going uphill. So, what's the name of the company? You have an accent. I didn't understand. I was trying. I was like, Meetly?
Yeah. Meetly.
Okay.
Meetly.
M-E-E-T-L-Y.
You know, for vegetarians.
M-E-A-T-L-Y?
Good point. I'm not in love with the name yet. Meetly, Meet-L-Y, is actually mean the proper way of doing something in English. Victorian English, though. So.
In ancient English, spoken by the Scots who roamed the plains. So, look, I love you, man, but I just said, say your name more than once. You said it once and kind of slurred, so I guessed at it. And then you did this buzzword jingle in the minute, like CRM, social mobile open, like, you know, open source, la la la. And we want to simplify that. I'm like, what? Huh? So you also, you just did the same thing. You didn't say the name of the company. You went a little long on the problem statements. You dumped a shitload of buzzwords in the middle. But the biggest problem is, I just don't know what you do. Is it an iPhone app? Is it a web? I mean, to be fair, Stephen, I don't know what you do, but I kind of get it. Keep your documents safe. The only problem with my pitch is, does that mean I make like fireproof safes that like float? Or and here's an example. Document storage, secure, floating. Is it an iPhone app?
Well, the real answer is I didn't pitch to explain the solution. My objective was to find a co-founder, and what he said was game the system. So I can explain the problem resonates with somebody here who wants to be a co-founder. That's the goal of my pitch.
Okay. Dude, don't applaud, because he fucked up. Be like, that's like, hey, that was really great fuck up. Like, if you want to get a co-founder, open with, hi, my name is Varu. I have an idea that I'm looking for a co-founder. Then state the problem. Like, otherwise people don't know what, like, if you want something, ask for it. Like, that's another key thing. And then again, so I go back, what you want a co-founder, but I don't know what it is. Like, it's a problem statement, right? Like, meet people at an event, but is it a mobile app? So if you want a co-founder and you've sold the vision, but you don't actually say what you're doing, your ability to find a co-founder is zero, right? Because, like, who would be a co-founder to that? Well, that's better than zero. Right, so what do you want them to, so let's help you. What do you want them to do for you? Programmer?
Yeah, I'm looking for a technical founder. Started and sold a company to Cisco many years ago, and I've done meeting software, Adobe and Macromedia, for a long time.
That would have been really helpful. There you go. Look, I'm looking for a co-founder. Here's a little bit about me, and here's how I'm bringing my 10 years of experience in building meeting software for companies like Cisco to a problem that I see in the world. I am also an engineer, and I'm looking for another engineer to help me. Thank you. My email is blah, blah, blah. So that would have been a lot better. But good job, man. Congratulations. All right. Well, we'll just keep going until I get yanked off stage. I'm sorry, bro. It won't get any better, actually. Are you going to learn?
I'm trying.
Take a breath. Don't fuck up. All right.
Hi, my name is Sam Eder, and I'm the co-founder of WeHateYourSite.com. We have lots of great technologies out there in the world and lots of talent in the design pool, but we still have lots of really crummy websites out there. We spend $15 billion a year in the US alone on figuring out what users think and what users do once they actually get on our sites, but we haven't done a good job figuring out why people react the way they do to our sites. So what we've done is created a method of combining qualitative and quantitative data with a UI intelligence engine that looks for patterns across HTML, CSS, copy, and other kind of factors around those areas, and try and make people make data-driven design decisions earlier in the design process. We built our first prototype, and we're currently working on our beta right now. My name is Sam Eder. I'm with WeHateYourSite.com.
That was good. Okay, so I'm going to say overall that was really good. You told the problem, very good. You ran out of time and you felt the need to fill time. Never feel the need to fill time. He looked at the clock, he's like, I got time. My name is Sam and I'm a vegetarian. I'm kind of single. I'm kind of good looking. Like, just because you have time does not mean you should use it. In fact, having less time is sometimes strategy. Don't be like, oh, and now they have 5 more minutes. Let me show you pictures of my ponies. It's like, just end it. You were on this great high note. Now, that was problem number 1. Otherwise, most of it was good, except the fucking name of the thing. WeHateYourSite.com. It's like, and we've applied great quantitative and qualitative. It sounds like a bunch of teenagers like, I hate your fucking site, bro. It's like, we put scientific measurement. How can you call it WeHateYourSite.com? Which is fucking incredibly long.
Yeah, we're looking at other names, but that's the one that sticks right now.
I'm going to take an audience poll. How many people think that a serious B2B service with quantitative analysis and HTML and text analysis should be called WeHateYourSite.com? Raise your hand.
We hate your name.
Wait a minute, I want everyone to hold them high because I didn't see any. All right, we got 1. Well, that's the only thing I would say. Other than that, it was really good. Names are easy to change. Oh.
Time for 2 more.
2 more, Jordy. Is that how I say it?
One girl.
Yeah, we should let a young lady up. That's just. Can she skip the line, guys? Listen, if there should be more female entrepreneurs in the world. Maybe she was stuck in the middle and didn't get out fast enough. But you have the stage, my friend.
Thank you. My name is Jordy, and I'm the founder of GoalMafia.com. It's the most dangerously effective way to achieve your real-life goals. It's a social game to help you achieve your goals with a mafia-style theme, because everything's more fun with a little bit of guns and sex and this thing is actually on. So how many of you, like me, that ever set a personal goal that you have not achieved? One of mine is right now to do yoga 3 times a week, and I can't do that because I'm working so hard on a startup. Goal Mafia is designed to help you achieve your goals. Our tagline is, we have ways of making you succeed, and those ways include your friends in the Mafia, which will, when you're showing commitment to your goals, they will shower you with gifts like virtual cigars, and when you're slacking, they will break your virtual knees. It's kind of like the scale of Farmville with the high intent of a site like Quora. My background, that's the end for me, so goalmafia.com, check it out, it's live.
So, it's a website, right? I heard you say site in there. Okay. There was a lot lost there for me. I think it was, I don't even know where to begin. First of all, you have 1 minute. Never take an audience poll. How many people think la la la? I can't see all the hands. Do it again. That's 10 seconds, dude. That's 1/6 of your pitch to have people raising their hands. Like if you were smart and you wanted to game the system, I would have come up and before I started the timer, just been like, just curious, how many people, if you want to do an audience poll, get it off the clock, right? But if you got a 1 minute pitch, if you're, just FY, so that's just a style point. I think you had a lot, so you weren't bad content-wise, you told the story, etc. Your style was off in a lot of areas. Number 1, the raising of the hands was useless. Then you have a tagline that seemed to run on for 3 sentences. Did anyone else notice that? He's like, we have a tagline. What was it again?
We have ways of making you succeed.
Yeah, we have, but then it continued. Like, for example, so is your tagline, like on the card, like run the front and back, like we might get a mafia guy to come bring... Really? Okay, let's go.
Execute your goals.
No.
Yeah, execute your goals is better. So I think so you did a lot of, you lost me a lot in it. So I would then say, look, everyone here, everyone knows that getting your task done is very difficult. And social gaming, on the other hand, is seeing a massive swell. So we've taken some of the best concepts from social gaming and applied them to your task list, and it's called See, I didn't get that either. You made it seem like it was, you did bring up the yoga example, but this is another thing about, you were weaving in so many stories to your pitch that I'm trying to follow along. Like you want to keep it simple. So again, go back to the big life goals and not necessarily tasks, but tasks too. Like I just got lost in a soup there. You gotta tighten it up and bring it home a little better. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna let the young lady go, and then you're gonna come back on and try again. And here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to tell one narrative in the thing, and in your particular, so whenever there's a big unknown in your pitch, like how the fuck are you gonna make any money? You should address that. It could be very simple, like we're gonna have virtual merchandise or stuff like this. But if I'm selling carbon credits, it's pretty easy how I'm going to make money, selling carbon credits. If I'm doing a goal-setting social game, I have no idea how you're going to make money. So answer the things, and you don't have to give a full answer, but just give us a sense of how you're going to do it. So the goal, by the way, this is where, what's your name? What's your name again? Vanu. This is where Vanu fucked up. The goal of every pitch is it should be clear, right? And if you're pitching for money or for interest or whatever, you want to pique people's curiosity so they come back in. So generally, you either start or end with what you're going to ask for. In the case of Vanu, I would have said, hey, I'm looking for a co-founder. In your case, you say, I'm working on this idea and I'd love some feedback, come see me. And so now you've painted a little sort of a sketch of what you're doing. You've ended with a call to action that people in the audience are like, yeah, I'd like to give you some feedback, and I'd love to learn more about the idea. So when you come back up, try and do that. Am I allowed to cause a line skippage here?
Sure.
Okay, so what's your name? Do you want to do a quick audience survey? Okay.
So anyway, you're going to give the two of them private coaching, right?
Can you guys hear me?
Pause. Hold on. One. Oop. Go.
Hi, my name is Kiara, and I'm a co-founder of Applying the Sky. We're basically the TurboTax for applying to college. Remember applying to college, SATs, writing essays, asking for recommendations? I would put it right up there with death and taxes, hence TurboTax. So we take a really difficult, complicated, stressful process, and we make it easy via a very simple, intuitive online project management interface. And we have a great team. Emily and I, she's in the audience, we're business people, but I swear we're total tech geeks, and we hate that we studied business in undergrad. And we just hired an amazing technical co-founder. He has a master's in computer science, and we love him. So we're launching a beta in just about a few days. If we can just get through QA. It's going to be targeted to the MBA market because they have a lot of money, and it's a multi-billion-dollar market. So please invest.
Can everyone hear me? That was, you did the things that, man, I hope you come up and do a lot better. Okay, so it just felt like padding on other stuff after padding on other stuff. So you started out with death and taxes, and applying is really hard. Then you go into project management for it. That makes it easier. And I'm thinking, I've never found project management to make my life easier, right? And quite frankly, the TurboTax makes taxes easier, but taxes are hard. So I kind of got that analogy, but I never actually got a connection of like what you were doing to make. You didn't give me all the analogies you used. Didn't make me feel like easier, right? It wasn't bad, right? It wasn't like it made me feel like it was harder, but you just kept layering on stuff. Like it's like filing your taxes. So we're like a TurboTax, and it's like managing complex projects. So it's project management. I'm like, So, but I'll give you some pros. You had the best presenting style of anyone yet. You seemed very calm and kind of liking the spotlight. And that's really, so when you're up here pitching, if you're nervous, right, it's hard to read if you're nervous about pitching in front of people or you're just nervous about your business. So the body language and the signaling is really, really important. And your body language and signaling was excellent. And you seem very confident, very self-assured. But so some tips for you would be, number one, you got to get that analogy to explain what you're doing down so people genuinely feel it's easier. And if you can back it up with data, so never say things, here's another mistake you made, it's worth billions of dollars. Don't get, like, well, how many billions? If you're going to use an analogy, be very specific. Say, you know, we're going after the MBA market at first because in America, MBAs spend in tuition $24 billion a year, whatever that number is. Be very specific, or don't say it at all. But one way you could make it easier is say, let's say the average applicant, it's apply in the sky, right? That's a kind of cat.
MBA applicant spends $250 per application. Kaplan alone in admissions preparations makes $500 million a year, and
right.
We don't assume that.
So apply in the sky helps applicants who, on average, put together 15 applications, simplify the process. It turns out that they spend an average of 5 hours per application, so north of 50 hours just to apply. We have an alpha of our tool today used by 100 students that takes that 50 or more hours of work and boils it down to 5. As it turns out, a lot of the application questions are the same, a lot of the forms have similar fields, and we can map all this stuff with our technology, simplifying your work by 5 orders of magnitude. Now, to a busy student who's prepping to go to college, that time saving is both worth money and saving of stress. So we believe that we can charge, on average, whatever, X per user and blah, blah, blah. So that's just a little more comfortable story saying essentially the same thing. So very good job. Well, actually, it could go worse. In fact, scarily, I've seen it go worse many, many, many times. Don't do it. It will hurt his feelings. Let's give him a shot early on. Are you ready? Take a breath. Feel the love of the... Let's give him just a big round of applause.
Okay, thanks. My name is Jordy. I'm the founder of goalmafia.com. It's a social game to help you achieve your real-life goals. And the problem that I'm trying to solve is that goals are hard. People set New Year's resolutions, and more often than not, you don't achieve them. Goals are incredibly meaningful and worthwhile, but they're lame and hard and painful. On the other side of the spectrum, you have social games like Farmville, which are incredibly fun and completely meaningless. So the idea is to combine those two things and let you play a meaningful social game to help you in your real life. The way we do that is to post goals publicly on Facebook and to your network so that your friends can see what you're doing. There's some psychological science behind it. They can support you. Our business model is, well, there's a mafia theme as part of this game, so the business model of the mafia is to turn fear into money. The business model of Goal Mafia is to turn fear of failure into money, and we do that because your mafia will offer you protection. You can basically pay money to keep your mafia friends off your back when you're slacking. Thank you.
Much better. So you did. There were two. That was much better. It was still a little off, but I would say that's like nearly infinitely better. There are a couple things that I liked a lot. I like the idea that you play these meaningless games to achieve goals. Now we'll add, that was just a lovely concept that you wove in there. Now you can play the same games except they have a meaningful goal at the end. I thought that was pretty sweet. And then I like the idea that you compared your revenue model to the mafia. It's like the mafia makes money by playing on fear. We also play on fear. Our fear is fear of failure. So I thought that was, I mean, so you got me with a couple things that stuck in my mind, were kind of cutesy, and I'll remember. But did you ask for anything? All right. Well, next time, cut off some of your funny analogies and ask for something. But great job, Jordy. Congratulations. All right, everybody. So that is a. Shoot.
Okay. If I'm the youngest co-founder in here, let me pitch. Because if anyone needs it, I can do the most. I am 20 years old.
We can let you pitch at 3:58.
3:58?
Who's younger than 20? Do I have legal liability for the amount of swear words I use? Good. Well, at least we know I'm above the CAPTCHA or whatever. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. So he said 3:15, right?
3:58.
3:58. You can do it again. But sorry. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon.